So our fifth team today is called Just Involvement of Indigenous People in Decision Making, shortened to JIIPD or JIIPD. You can correct me. This is a team made up of 6 members representing both Chevening and Marshall alumni from North, Central and South America, and that includes Brazil, Mexico, Peru, Guatemala, the USA and Paraguay. Our presenter today will be Gabriela Cazenave, and answering questions will be Alex J. Carney. So over to you.
Hello, sorry. Can you please put the previous slide? So hello to everyone, I'm Gabriela from Paraguay and I will be presenting our policy proposal called Tecoja. And it means the place where we are, what we are. And it's in Guarani, an indigenous language spoken in South America. Next, please. Next, please. So we would like to characterize the huge challenge our proposal wants to address by bringing up the voice of an indigenous woman leader from Paraguay. So she says, we are told we are the guardian of nature, but our voices are not taken into account for climate action and environmental justice. So this is very important because it highlights the fact that at international spheres and commitments, we recognize indigenous people and put the huge responsibility for them to be stewards of nature. But at the same time, the national political spheres does not give them the power to actually exercise these roles of guardians of nature. On the contrary, development policies in countries like Peru and Paraguay are characterized by giving more power to mining, hydrocarbon exploration, soy and cattle industries. So indigenous communities have to adapt in a very unjust context to multiple threats, from droughts, flooding, glacier melting, to biodiversity loss, water, air, and soil pollution. All of these put indigenous community in a climate and environmental poverty trap because their livelihoods are highly dependent on nature. Moreover, in Peru, we have 48 indigenous languages. This means that language plus all the previous are barriers for women and youth to involve in prior consultation processes and in decision making. Next, please. So our policy proposal is a platform for just adaptation. What do we mean by just adaptation? A recognition of different causes of vulnerability, of indigenous knowledge, practice, and techniques, of indigenous woman role as stewards of nature. Imagine this, the voices of indigenous people translated into story maps as their source of evidence. We propose then a digital platform that aims to collect, map, and interconnect the knowledge, action, and needs of indigenous communities with the interests and concerns of government actors. In addition, the platform will serve as an observatory that shows through indicators the level of inclusion and participation of indigenous women and youth in decision-making. Next, please. So what is the impact? So we want to create evidence of climate change impacts and the proposed adaptation solutions based on Peruvian indigenous people knowledge, practices, and technology. By this, we are going to have a huge impact on legitimacy, inclusiveness, transparency, and justice. We will use evidence to increase effectiveness and legitimacy of adaptive actions. It will include initially more than 7,000 indigenous people, particularly focused on women and youth. We're going to use 2G bands and local radios as inclusive methods, and transparency because we want to ensure through an open data platform to monitor and impact with different sorts of indicators. Finally, we want to empower and increase the political power of women and youth in climate change adaptation and climate action. Next, please. So how are we going to implement it? Next, please. We are going to deliver a pilot in Peru. Why Peru? Because first of all, Peru already have an indigenous people platform to address climate change. This is composed of 7 organizations that represents different indigenous people. This, however, only brings up 2 representatives from each organization. So are these enough voices is mostly male representative. So it's not representative of over the 4 million people indigenous people living in Peru, and it's not clear what is after the generation of information. So we are going to also have a balanced approach by including female leaders, civil society organizations,
1 minute remaining,
ministries, and the academic sector. After that, we're going to gather evidence and establish channels of communications. There are immense information that already exists, but it is isolated and it's difficult to access. It's on different languages. So we are going to have a desk review. We are going to use radio to increase the information we gather and use different adapted participatory methods, digital and in person. We are going to develop the digital platform. We are going to use a geographic information system. We'll show different multiple layers and the story maps. We are going to use also data studio and artificial intelligence language analysis. This is a two-way communication channel. And after, we are going to develop impact and monitoring indicators. So we need to ensure that policies are working in synergy to protect and restore nature, land, and livelihoods of indigenous people. Next, please. Thank you very much. And I want to finish with a phrase that it says, adaptation policies that do not address the root causes of vulnerability are a threat to indigenous communities' survivals. Let's disrupt the power that brings an unjust world. Thank you very much. Next, please. There is an image there. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gabriela. Open that up to our judges. Is there a question for Gabriela and team Just Involvement of Indigenous People in Decision Making?
Yes, I have a question for
Please, Tracy.
Gabriela. Gabriela, thank you for your presentation. What do you think would the attitudes be towards, by the indigenous persons towards this digital platform? Do you think there are going to be any reservations in terms of the data that will be collected and their stories being shared online? Do you envision having somebody be a bridge in between? How do you view reservations?
So first of all, there is we recognize there is a huge technological gap. That's why we don't propose the use of apps that requires smartphones. Instead, we are going to base our network in the 2G network, because it's the one that covers the most territory in Peru. We already have studies in Peru that shows the percentage of coverage of this 2G network. So it's basically the old phones. That's why we are going to use also messages. So we are planning to first have, they already have an indigenous network that for the prior consultation that is going to deliver the capacities required to just reply a message. So we want to do it, we want to increase participation and involvement through first a technology that is already familiar for them, because there's also the discussion of new technology such as smartphones and tablets with indigenous cultures. So that's a huge barrier that we want to, that's why we want to use the 2G network instead of using other. So the digital platform is the bridging of them, by them I mean indigenous communities, or translating their story that could be connected then with policies and effective articulation of efforts towards adaptation. I'm not sure if I was clear.
Thank you.